This is Parashat Behar-Bechukotai. The interesting Parashat Behar talks about Shemita. Shemita is the test on Emunah and Behar Israel. And Torah tells us, if somebody doesn't keep Shemita, what's going to happen to him? Okay, in other words, I have to every year and make so much profit. Now this year I shouldn't make it. How could it be? How could I give Panah to my children? And he says, look here, I do work and I give tzedakah. That sometimes comes to tzedakah. You do something not right in business and you say, I give tzedakah. And I sure doesn't want that. Now, the Torah says, after that, Torah talks about somebody who sells his metaltalin, means the assets that they have, that movable assets. Now, Chacham tell us, why does it say that? If somebody doesn't keep Shemita, what is going to do? He wants to have more money, he would lose his money. Then he has to sell his metaltalin. Then Torah tells us that he has to sell his sode. He has to sell his sode, even his karka. Therefore, gives a message. If he listens to the message, good. If not, the message becomes more intense. Therefore, he has to sell his son. Then he listens to the message, good. If not, then he has to sell his house. Even house. The person loses so much, that he has to sell his house. Then he listens to, good. If not, then he has to. Then he borrows money with repeat. He has to pay repeat. Then he sells himself. And the last station is that if he listens to the message, if not, the last station is that he sells himself. The Torah says, Le'eker mishpachat ger. He says, Le'eker mishpachat ger, Torah says. Now Rashi says, what's Eker mishpachat ger? Zui omet kochavim. Yeshu not the Yod Sham, not Anifal Avodah Zarah. He would sell himself to Avodah Zarah Hatzma Liyud Lo Shamash. He doesn't sell himself to serve the Avodah Zarah, to worship Avodah Zarah, but he sells himself to Avodah Zarah, to be Mishamish, to Lachto Vitzin, to Rishov Mayim, to chop wood and draw water for Avodah Zarah. And then Torah says the relatives have to redeem him. No, don't keep him in that situation, because that situation is not good for him. Now, why the last thing, what Torah is saying, that there are stages to go through, and the last stage is to sell himself to Avodah Zarah. Punishment of Torah is not taking revenge, not the nekam. Punishment of Torah is to fix a person, point out the person what the mistake was, and what we have to work on. Now, somebody who doesn't keep Shemita. No, Torah says, what is it? Why doesn't he keep Shemita? Because he says that, I made so much profit last year. I should give up all of these hundreds, thousands of dollars. I have soded cups, so many crops. And, I understand. I work and I give a percentage to tzedakah, but why should I lose everything? Now, Torah is telling us, Torah gives him messages. And the last message is that he sells himself to Avodah Zarah. In other words, when he sells himself to Avodah Zarah, to sell Avodah Zarah, sometimes education and making somebody to grow is projection of what he did and what he's doing. In other words, if you want to mechanic a child, a lot of times you give a punishment to your child. Punishment got nothing to do with whatever that he did wrong. It was not such a good punishment. Always the punishment has to be in a way to teach a child what you did wrong. Let's say that, for example. Let's say that the child broke something at home through negligence. Now, what do? Tell that this is broken. Now, we have to substitute it. Now, we have to take a little bit of money from him to substitute that. So we understand that, damaging something is damaging yourself. That's the key lesson. If you tell him to go to the corner and stay in the corner for a few minutes, it doesn't connect. Good, it's connection a little bit. But the real punishment is when we project what you did wrong and fix it. Now, Torah is telling us, let's say that these things happen in 15 years, in 10 years. With Shemita or something happened. First he sold his metaltalin, then he sold his sode, then his house, then money, borrow money, then he sold himself to a god, then he sells himself to Abdul. Takes a while. Christ projecting that when you didn't keep Shemita, it wasn't just a greed of money. You sold yourself to Abdul. That was what you did. Why? Because if you would have felt and understood that all of these things comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem would provide it for you, then you wouldn't question Hashem that He gives it to you, He gives it that way, He gives it this way. Therefore, you will listen to Hashem. But if somebody feels that I did it, I myself did it, it was very hard to give up. How am I going to give up? There all is perspective. The Torah is saying that right now you are selling to yourself to Avodah Zarah, but that's a projection of what you did many years ago at that time that you didn't keep the Shemita. Because when you decided not to keep Shemita, you said to yourself that I'm making this money, I'm making all of this profit. Now, how come I shouldn't make it this year? I want to make the profit. I want to have the profit. And that is the projection of what you did many years ago. Therefore, Torah's punishment is not just a punishment, is a chinuch, it's education. And education is, and to understand a lot of times, in other words, the only way to understand to deal with parnasa is to convince ourselves that parnasa comes from Hashem. If we are not really convinced, there is a lot of mistinot in life that the person would fail in it. The easy way, there's no detour. The easy way is to feel and understand that parnasa comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem gives it to you. Like Shemita, the point of Shemita is to test for a person to understand this is from Hashem or not. Because if really you don't believe this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you are a farmer, it's very hard to give up everything that you are making. You have a family to support, you have, they got all of the questions and all of the challenges are there. A family to support, person would feel a lot of justification for himself. But if the person knows that's the way that comes, then it doesn't question it. It doesn't. Question comes when a person doesn't feel that really is from Hashem. I did it, then a person would justify, maybe this way I shouldn't do this way, I should do the other way. Therefore, the whole point of Shemita is to really penetrate inside of a person that the source of parnasa comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu.